about September of last year. From there, we interviewed witnesses, got eyewitnesses that were now at this point willing to come forward to give me their testimony of eyewitnesses that puts Mr. Oliver there and actually the trigger puller that committed this homicide. That's what, how we got the probable cause affidavit.
Good morning. Are you Marco Gomez? Speak up, please. And this is case number 21-36534. And Mr. Gomez is charged with sexual assault, set for trial to begin with jury selection on Monday, the 23rd. And what is the announcement?
Great. Stay true.
All right. Obviously, this is one of the oldest ones we've got. And so I would anticipate that it would be pretty high on the list, if not the top. Is there anything that you guys need me to know or we need to discuss before I number those cases today?
No.
All right. It looks like there was a previous rejection back in November. No changes or to that. That was for 15 years.
That was the offer we rejected, Judge. We had actually signed paperwork this morning for 8. After we signed it, I think the complaining witness called Mr. Smith and expressed that she did not want the 8-year offer. And so that was withdrawn. So
okay,
we're here back at the trial docket.
All right. So then I'll set it. There won't be any plea agreements after today. Mr. Gomez, if you change your mind and want to enter a plea of guilty, it would be open to the court or to some other number other than that 15. Is that where y'all are at 15?
That's where we're at, Judge.
Okay. All right. Then I'll set it and we'll probably see y'all at 1 o'clock on the 23rd. You can go back with the bailiff. They are all. Yes. Good morning. Are you Marco Gomez?
Yes.
And Mr. Rojas, will your client wait for the formal reading of the indictment?
He will, Your Honor.
Give me this. Mr. Gomez, in clause number 21-36534, you're charged with the second-degree felony offense of sexual assault from March 26th of 2020. And how do you plead to that charge?
Guilty.
Are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Is anyone making you plead guilty? Is anyone forcing
No.
you to plead guilty?
No.
Okay. Are you sick?
Yeah.
Okay. I need you to answer loudly and clearly. If so, you have some hesitation. And if you don't want to enter a plea of guilty, then you're the number one trial. So it's up to you. But you're under oath, and I've asked you, how do you plead? And so I want you to tell me again, do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Okay. I have here on the tablet some documents that have your signature on them that the state has marked as exhibit number 1. Before you sign these, did you go over them with Mr. Rojas?
Yes.
Did he fully explain them to you?
Yeah.
And do you understand, if I follow the agreement that you've made with the district attorney, that you will be waiving or giving up any right to appeal? So you can't change your mind if I follow the agreement. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you also understand, if you're not a U.S. citizen, that a plea of guilty or no contest may result in your deportation, exclusion from admission to the country, or denial of naturalization under federal law?
Yes.
Also, I have received the admonishment regarding sex offender registration requirements, and you've gone over that with Mr. Rojas, and understand that as a result of this plea, you will be required to register as a sex offender, correct?
Correct.
Right. State tenders number 1.
No objection.
It's admitted. Is there any evidence that Mr. Gomez is not competent?
No, Your Honor.
All right, sir, I'm going to find that you entered your plea of guilty freely and voluntarily. Find that you're mentally competent and you understand the nature and the consequences of your plea. Find sufficient evidence to find you guilty, and at this time find you guilty of sexual assault. Sentence you in accordance with your agreement to a term of 12 years in the institutional division of the Texas Department of Corrections. You will receive credit on that sentence for any time that you've been in custody that the law gives you the right to receive. I'm going to hand you the trial court certification that shows this was an agreement and I followed it, so you have waived your right to appeal. You're also going to be handed a written admonishment regarding your ineligibility to possess a firearm or ammunition. Because of the judgment entered against you, you're ineligible under Texas law to possess a firearm or ammunition. Possession of a firearm or ammunition could lead to charges against you. If you have any questions about the laws that make you ineligible to possess a firearm or ammunition, or about how long that lasts, you can talk with Mr. Rojas. All right, good luck to you, sir. You can go back with the bailiff.
No.
And we can get Mr. Lopez Famias. Good morning.
Buenos
Good morning.
You're Jose Manuel Lopez Famias.
Jose Lopez Famias.
Yes. And Ms. Braza, will your client waive the formal reading of the indictment in each case?
Yes, ma'am, he will.
Uh,
Espérese. No hable ya le pregunté.
Mr. Lopez Famias, in cause number 23, DCCR 1413, you're charged with the second-degree felony offense
Felonía de segundo grado
of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon
de agredir con un
from June
con una arma
18th of 2023.
del 18 de junio del 2023.
And how do you plead to that
¿Y
charge?
cómo se declara? ¿Cómo se declara?
Guilty or not guilty?
¿Culpable o no culpable?
guilty.
Guilty.
Are you pleading guilty
Se está
freely
declarando
and
a su
voluntarily?
propia voluntad?
Oh, sí?
Yes.
Oh, no. Okay.
If I
Okay.
follow the agreement, you
Sí.
cannot appeal.
¿Sí entiende?
Sí.
Yes.
Okay. Do you also understand,
También
if you're not a
entiende
U.S.
que si no es
citizen,
ciudadano americano,
that a plea of guilty or no
El culpa-
contest
que venir a hacerse culpable
may result in
puede
your
resultar en una
deportation,
deportación
exclusion from
sin
admission to the
volver a entrar al
country,
país
or denial of
y le
naturalization
pueden
under federal
negar
law.
que vaya a arreglar. ¿Entiende?
Sí.
Yes.
And it's for, this one's not written on, it's for 2 years.
It's, so I had asked it how long it was, and
Está diciendo que le pregunté
I guess there wasn't an actual number, so I just put time served because that was the,
se me hace que le van a
Well, I
dar
can't just send on
pero
something time served. I have
no sé
to,
Yeah,
específicamente
that
que
was one of the,
I'm okay with 2 years. If it's got more and you want to, I prefer to send him closer to the actual time he has. I think he's got more than 2 years.
he has
no sé
25 months, so.
hizo
minimum of-
25
But 2 years is fine.
So,
25 meses ya.
So do you understand
Entiende,
the
señor,
agreement will be for a 2-year term
que van a ser 2 años
in the institutional division of the Texas Department of Corrections?
en la prisión
I did
de
that, you need to
Texas.
write two.
¿Qué tengo que hacerle?
But you have enough
Pero
credit
tiene suficiente crédito
to cover all of that time.
para cubrir todo ese tiempo.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that your
¿Sí
understanding?
entiende?
Sí.
Yes.
State tenders number 1 in each case.
objection.
It's admitted in each case. Is there any evidence that Mr. Lopez Famias is not?
Evidencias.
No, you're wrong.
Dice que
All right, oh wait. I didn't go through the second case. Mr. Lopez Famias, in cause number 23, DCCR 1414, you're also charged with a second-degree felony of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon
con una arma
from June 18th of
del 18
2023.
de junio del 2023.
And how do you plead to
¿Y
that
cómo se
charge?
declara ese cargo?
¿Vale?
Guilty.
And again, are you pleading
Y otra
guilty
vez está-
freely and
se está declarando
voluntarily?
culpable voluntariamente. Yes.
I also have
También
documents in
tengo
that case
documentos en ese
here on the
caso,
tablet.
en la
You
tableta.
have your signature on them that
Tienen
the
su
state's
firma.
marked as exhibit number
que han
1.
puesto como exhibito número 1.
Mr. Lopez Famias, I'm going to find
Voy a encontrar
that you entered your plea of
que
guilty in
entró
each of your
cada-
cases freely and voluntarily.
que entró cada las firmas de cada de los 2 papeles por su propia voluntad.
Find that you're mentally competent and understand the nature
Entendió
and the
las 2
consequences of your
papeles
plea.
que firmó y las consecuencias que vienen con ellos.
Find sufficient evidence to
Que hay
find you
suficiente
guilty.
evidencia para hallarlo culpable.
And in cause number 23,
En causa
DCCR
1413,
1413, find you guilty of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon,
culpable de agresión con una arma
sentence
y
you
lo
to 2 years
sentenciamos a 2 años
in prison.
en prisión.
You will receive credit
Va a
on that
recibir
sentence
crédito en esa sentencia
for any time that you've been in
por cualquier
custody
tiempo que ha estado en custodia
that the law gives you the
que la
right to
ley le da
receive.
de recibir.
There will be an
Va a haber
affirmative finding of a deadly
Un
weapon.
hallado que sí trae una arma.
And then in cause number
Y en la causa
23,
23,
DCCR 1414, Also find sufficient
También
evidence to
la
find you
suficiente
guilty.
evidencia de hallarme culpable.
And at this time,
Y
find
en
you
este
guilty of
tiempo,
aggravated
hallarnos
assault with a deadly
culpable de
weapon.
agresión con un arma.
Sentence you in
Lo
accordance with that agreement
sentenciamos a ese acuerdo.
to a term of 2 years in
De 2
prison.
años en la prisión.
You will receive credit
Para
on that
recibir
sentence
crédito
for
también
any
en
time
esa
that you've been in
sentencia por
custody
cualquier
that the
tiempo
law
que ya
gives you the
esté en
right to
custodia.
receive.
Ujú.
Those cases will
Esos
run
dos casos
concurrently,
van a ser
which means
juntos
together at the same time.
Quiere decir al mismo tiempo los dos casos. ¿Ok?
I've handed you the
Le he
trial court
dado
certification
la
that
certificación
shows this was an agreement that I
que
followed.
es lo que la jueza va a hacer acuerdo.
So you did waive your right to
So, sí,
appeal.
no va a poder apelar sus casos.
I've also handed you
También le
a written admonishment
otro papel
regarding your ineligibility to possess a firearm
de procesar
or
una arma
ammunition.
ni
The admonishment is in Spanish.
está en español.
You should read it carefully
Debe de leerlo muy bien.
because if you are in possession of a
Porque si
firearm,
lo hallan que
it
tiene
could
un
lead
arma,
to charges
puede
against
ser que
you.
le pueden volver a poner cargos.
If you have questions
Si
about
tiene
the
alguna
laws
pregunta sobre las leyes
that make you
que
ineligible to possess
no
a
pueden
firearm
incluir o traer una arma
or ammunition,
o amuniciones
or about how long that
o de qué
lasts,
tanto tiempo tiene que seguir estas reglas,
you can ask Ms.
le
Peraza.
puede preguntar a su abogada.
All right.
Also, Judge, I'm sorry, we'll be dismissing.
All right. Are you Dmitri Oliver? And so Mr. Gertz represents Mr. Oliver and has filed a writ of habeas corpus requesting a reasonable bond. Mr. Oliver is charged with the offense of murder. It is pre-indicted. There's $1 million bond set at this time. And I don't have a file, but I do have the writ, which is number 22-39802. Also, it looks like, what's that SO number? Anyway, I have for the record, I do have a copy of the probable cause affidavit and that application for writ. Mr. Gertz, you may proceed.
Judge, first and foremost, this is essentially a cold case. Detective Busby is working on it as a cold case situation. So it's been around. My client has been living in Southeast Texas his whole life, has been here, and I'd like to call him briefly to talk about his personal financial situation for the purposes of the finance aspect of the writ.
Raise your right hand the best you can, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Gertz.
Mr. Oliver, do you have $100,000 in cash? Do you have what were you doing before you were arrested for this?
I do cargo van service delivery for Walmart.
Okay. And you're being paid by Walmart, is that right?
Yes, sir.
What were you being paid an hour?
They give us $100 a day.
$100 a day. So how many days a week would you
We
work?
work 7 days a week.
7 days. So 700.
A week.
Okay. So that's $2,800 a month.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you own your own home free and clear?
No, sir.
Do you understand what I mean by free and
Yes,
clear?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you own any other property that you don't have a lien on or something of that nature?
Yes.
What do you own?
Apartment complex.
Okay.
Fourplex.
A fourplex?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What do you owe on that?
I don't own nothing. It's gifted to.
How much was gifted to you?
Yes, sir.
Was it inheritance?
Yes, sir. It was,
How much is that worth if we were going to estimate?
the last property value I got on it was $68,000.
$68,000. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And do you own any other major things of value? And by that, I mean, stocks, bonds, gold,
No, sir.
Bitcoin, anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay. Does that $68,000 apartment complex, does that generate some type of revenue for you?
Yes, sir.
How much revenue does that generate a month?
$2,600 a month.
$2,600 a month?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Any other major sources of funding that you were aware of? Okay, good. Judge, I have no further questions about that issue.
Ms. Malpino, any questions?
Mr. Oliver, what is your criminal history?
Being arrested in a motor vehicle and possession of controlled substance.
Was that possession of a controlled substance actually out of this court?
No, it was out of Stevenson's.
Stevens Court.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you on probation for
No,
that?
nothing.
Were you convicted of that?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
In 2014, 15.
Were you convicted again in 2025?
No.
Between 2013 and now, tell the court what type of trouble you have gotten into.
From 13, I only had a high-speed chase. I ain't been in no trouble since then.
That was the evading.
Yes, ma'am. That was it. Yes, ma'am.
I don't have any further questions.
Any other witnesses?
No, Judge.
All right, Ms. Malfino, witness.
I would call Detective Jeff Busby.
Good morning, sir. If you please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Detective Busby, would you please state your full name for the record
So Jeffrey Busby,
and how are you employed?
City of Beaumont Police Department.
And are you a certified peace officer in the state of Texas?
Yes, ma'am. I'm
And
a master peace officer.
and are you also assigned to the detective unit?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you the detective or one of the detectives, in fact, the lead, investigating what we have termed a cold case murder involving the suspect Dmitri Oliver?
Yes, ma'am.
The judge has reviewed the probable cause affidavit, but based on all of your investigation and the totality of the circumstances, would you give the court a very brief rundown as to the facts of this offense and what you think would be an appropriate resolution to this bond matter?
Okay, so April 11th, 2013, there was a homicide that took place at Primrose Apartments, 2575 Primrose. From there was different witnesses, but a lot of them didn't want to come forward just because of the nature of the offense. That's what kind of turned this into a cold case because witnesses didn't want to speak on this. It just prolonged until I picked this up about September of last year. From there, we interviewed witnesses, got eyewitnesses that were now at this point willing to come forward to give me their testimony of eyewitnesses that puts Mr. Oliver there and actually the trigger puller that committed this homicide. That's what, how we got the probable cause affidavit. By speaking to these witnesses, most of them were very scared and fear. That's why they want to come forward. And even after speaking to them 2 or 3 different times, they really were afraid of this man and even considered him evil.
Anything else?
No.
Mr. Gardner, questions?
Detective, is there any physical evidence that you gathered that connects Mr. Oliver to the murder itself?
So there's a lot of evidence that was collected, and I'm retesting some of the DNA evidence because some of the evidence did have a CODIS hit. It wasn't for Mr. Oliver. It was another person involved. But for that DNA evidence, it was not particularly for the homicide. It was going to be for the stolen vehicle related to this homicide.
Right. Because what happened here was seemingly after the murder, the vehicle was disposed of in a separate location. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. They committed the homicide, stole his vehicle, and within 24 hours dumped the vehicle.
Okay. And the DNA that you found that relates to someone else was from that vehicle. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct? And so, have you been able to rule out? You said Mr. Oliver. Were you able to rule out the decedent as well from that? Okay. Judge, I don't have anything further.
All right. Any other questions?
No.
Thank you, Detective.
Thank you.
Judge, may he be excused? He's in SWAT training.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming down. All right. Anything else?
No.
All right. Argument?
Judge, we're just asking the court consider a bond in the ballpark of $500,000 to $700,000. That's more than sufficiently high under the circumstances that we have right now, which is just informant-based or witness-based testimony. There's no physical evidence tying him to the crime. And I'm not trying to litigate the crime here. I'm just saying for a situation in which it's 13 years later, he's still here. He hasn't fled. He's not gone to the Bermuda or something to get away from this. So clearly he doesn't have that consciousness of guilt that would be required or would indicate that he'd be a flight risk. He owns a piece of property here, although it's not valued very high, but he owns a piece of property here. He's been a lifelong resident here. And so we're asking the court to consider reducing the bond to in the ballpark of $500,000 to $700,000.
Ms. Malfino?
Judge, I would defer to the discretion of the court in this case. I do recognize the fact that it's a 2013 offense date and he still apparently is in the area. My concern is the same as with every homicide case. I would just ask the court to take into consideration all of the facts presented before you, both in the probable cause and by Detective Busby, and set something that is commiserate with the other bonds that the court set in Jefferson County for these types of offenses.
Thank you. And I will, for purposes of the record, I have taken judicial notice of the court's file and reviewed the probable cause affidavit. Based on that, the evidence presented, including some of the limited facts that I have, and dates and things like that, I am going to grant, the motion, or the writ. I'm going to, set bond at $650,000. And a condition of that bond, if made, or some conditions of that bond, if made, will be, that Mr. Oliver, you be required to wear a GPS monitoring device at all times. And, in addition to those two places, you can also go to Mr. Gert's office for attorney visits and to court. So until further order of the court, that's it.
Yes.
Okay.
Judge, may I make just one last request?
Yes.
Based on the testimony of Detective Busby and his making the comment that at one point in time, at least witnesses were concerned and possibly are still concerned for their well-being. I will get with the intake division when I take this case back to them and ask them to compile a list of possible witnesses and ask that he be ordered to have no contact with
Yes.
those individuals, and we can plug in that information to the GA.
Yeah, so I will go ahead and order it now, and then we'll fill in the blank on those names. But anyone that even now through word of mouth or on the streets or whatever you've heard of people who were there, who were talking, you are to have absolutely no communication and no contact with them. That's through obviously you seeing them in person, but it's also sending messages on any type of social media or trying to be secret with it. It's also sending messages through other people. No contact, no communication. If there is any of that and I find out about it, you'll be back in jail with a much, much higher bond. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, don't make sure you follow all of those rules if you make that bond.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.